Okay, Mrs. Carmody is still yakking.
You'll never know that.
I'd like to call the meeting back into session. Could we all rise, please? And I'll ask the student reps. Thank you. And I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. In 2 days, it's the anniversary of Sandy Hook Massacre. So if we could just have a moment for the victims and their families and friends. Thank you. Mr. Darrenowski, do you have something you'd like to add to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to add to the agenda a stipulated agreement, 2024-2025-3, to,
We'll make that item 10.
10K.
Okay,
NA.
Okay.
10K.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. I now need an approval of the minutes of the meeting of November the 14th.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. Okay. Moving on to public communications, communications from our student board reps. Bakery.
Hi, board. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving break. It's been an exciting month for us students as we got to enjoy a 3-hour delay at the start of the month. Our student and staff enjoyed the well-deserved Thanksgiving break, giving time to rest and spend quality time with their families before the busy winter part of the school year. Our music department recently had a successful winter concert showcasing the talents of our students. Several charity events are underway throughout the school. SHS Fashion Club is collecting clothing donations for a women's shelter and creating Christmas cards for a homeless shelter to spread holiday cheer. Baseball team is organizing its toy drive for the holiday season. DECA annual Winterfest event was a successful this year, providing a fun holiday event for young children. This year, DECA had a winter-themed door decorating competition that coincided with their event. It helped enhance the festival atmosphere throughout the school. Termites have been discovered on the gym floor. There's carpet and cones around it. This is currently being fixed, but has impacted gym class since only half of the gym is available. Lastly, the drama club recently put on a wonderful play, Brothers Grimm Spectaculathon. They did an outstanding job. For district report, we have JFK. Congratulations to the Eagle Engineers GFK First Robotics team for their advancement to the state finals this weekend. The team demonstrated determination, problem solving, and overcoming obstacles at a competition held on Saturday, November 23rd. The team was also awarded the Core Values Award. Go Eagles! Recently, members of NJHS and STEPS made over 200 Brian bags after school. Brian bags contain essential supplies such as tuna, deodorants, socks, etc., and are intended to be kept in your car so they can be distributed to homeless members of our community. The bags are made in support of the Brian O'Connell Homeless Project. Southern's very own Connecticut Kid Governor, Cristino Almeida, recently spoke to his 6th grade peers about his role and responsibilities as Kid Governor. Cristiano tenure will end in January.
All right, for the DePaulo report, students that are involved in the community service volunteers within the leadership program at DePaulo volunteered their time last week and tonight to do some bell ringing for the Salvation Armor at Price Chopper. As a result, they raised hundreds of dollars for Southington Community Services. DePaulo basketball teams are both currently practicing for their first game, which is next week. And DePaulo's band students did a fantastic job at their concerts this week, and the orchestra and chorus concerts are going to be next week. Both Kennedy and DePaulo donated hundreds of toys for a community-wide toy drive organized by Southington's Valentine the Clown to benefit the Southington Community Services. And for the athletics, the fall sports team at SHS has officially concluded with the annual Thanksgiving Day morning game for the football team at Cheshire High School, with the Rams defeating the Blue Knights in a hard-fought defensive battle. The winter sports team got underway this week with the girls' ice hockey team defeating the West Hartford Co-op 2-1. The boys' ice hockey co-op team, in conjunction with Rocky Hill, played a special season opening exhibition game at the XL Center in Hartford last night, defeating Glastonbury 5-1. Tomorrow evening, the girls' basketball team travels to Rocky Hill to launch the CIAC regular season for the Southington High School, and then next Wednesday, the wrestling team will host Avon High School in its season opening match, and the boys' basketball team will open its season on the road at Farmington next Tuesday. And the middle school sports tryouts are being conducted at DePaulo and Kennedy this month, before some games will take place later this month, preceding the holiday break. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions of our student reps? Okay, thank you. Well done. Communications from board members? No? I just have a couple of things from STEPS. We had a meeting. I always learn something when I go to STEPS meetings. But a reminder for parents with the holidays upon us, parents who might need information about the Connecticut Social Host Law can find it on, it's southingtonsteps.org/family. So if you need a refresher as to what the law is. Two things I heard about, I've never heard this before. Kratom, which I had never heard of. It's found in liquid and pill form, and it's 13 times more powerful than morphine, and is currently unregulated. So they're working on getting it regulated, but it's also referred to as the gas station heroin. Yeah. It's a plant from Southeast Asia. I had never heard of it before, and yeah, you go to STEPS meetings, you learn things. Also, we had a conversation about vaping. And vapes now come in various shapes. You can buy vapes that are pens, and I see people shaking their head in the audience, a pen that looks like a pen, or a key fob. I couldn't tell the difference between a regular key, it looked that much like it, or a bar, an energy bar. They're part of a trend called Benjamins. And it's a slang term for an electronic vape and a $100 bill, a Benjamin, so Benjamins. And they're targeting young people. So just two things that hit me is, really? So that was from STEPS. So now, communications from our administration. Mr. Medancy.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I'll try and get through this without coughing.
Water. Give the man
Yeah,
water.
I got the water. So,
Okay.
So the first announcement, I have two grants tonight, and then a few just interesting tidbits of information for you. One grant, which I did not know existed, but we received the King Arthur Flour Grant Award. If any of you are bake your own pizzas or make your own dough, it's King Arthur Flour. But at the high school, they received a grant in the Family Consumer Science Department, and the students are going to use the flour supplies to make breads that will be donated to the Bread for Life.
Love it.
So-
Love it.
I mean, we talk about killing two birds with one stone. Grant a grant, learn how to bake, and helping a good cause. Second, this is more just an annual thing that you're aware of that we do each year. By statute, we're to notify you when the indoor air quality checks for the schools have occurred, and that using the Tools for Schools documents that the state has provided, and they are posted on the website and on each school's website. And again, that's an annual requirement. This is not the more extensive HVAC inspection requirement where you're expected to only do 3 schools per year over the 5 years until they're all done. This is more of a high-level assessment. And I've been trying to keep you up to date on our digital world progress, and so I've got some interesting data for you tonight. You did get a peek at the social media sites last week, so I brought you some analytics from our website to let you know kind of just what are people interested in. So in the month of November, we had 19,200 clicks on our website. So when people say they don't go to your website, that's not true. People are going. Now, we know it can be people in the community, it could be salespeople, it could be, I mean, for all I know, it could be bots looking for information. But 19,200 clicks. Learn about our audience, 9,000 was desktops, 9,000 was, almost 10,000 actually was mobile devices. So people are more apt to go to our website on a mobile device than on a computer itself. And only 170 were from tablets. So I thought that was interesting. And then a couple other pieces for you. The most clicked on portion of our website, what people seem to go to for the most was the Southington Schools calendar, which is, the timing is interesting because the
Right.
first read of that is before you this evening. And then the page itself, which got 2,300 clicks after the calendar, actually, so 1,700 clicks was just the website homepage and 1,400 clicks for the lunch menu. So people are going online to see what's for lunch today at the schools to determine if they're going to pack lunch or not.
That's good. That's
And
good.
the top countries that clicked on our website,
Top
the
countries?
United States was 17,500 clicks, but interestingly, 294 people from Canada and 259 people from the Philippines visited our website. So that's
Okay.
our analytics data for you this evening. I thought you'd find that interesting.
Thank you so much.
I know you're going to discuss in further, detail with the Finance Committee, so I won't go too much into it, but there'll be some action on that tonight. I'm proud to share that our new district registrar, Ken Seltzer, applied for a grant for McKinney Vento to help our families with all associated costs and burdens that they may be experiencing, and we received that grant, which is an annual grant for the next 3 years, and they'll tell you more about that in the Finance Committee report. And then lastly, you triggered a thought with the Salvation Army sharing. I had the pleasure of ringing the Salvation Army bell this past Saturday at Stop and Shop, but the real highlight was I did it with 3 students for Interact. So I got to pick their brains about all things Southington High School for 2 hours straight, and they had some amazing insight, and these were amazing kids. And so it was time well spent, and I will say, we all agreed that 2 things. People are amazingly generous in this community. We had to empty the bell bucket on more than one occasion, and I was only there 2 hours. And we were hoping that people could be as nice and appreciative all year long, not just during the holiday season. You sensed a feeling of people being thankful and grateful and appreciative during that time. So that's our goal for January. We're going to strive to continue that feeling that we experienced that Saturday. So that concludes my report this evening.
Okay. Any questions of the superintendent? No? Okay, hearing none. Then communications from the public on agenda items only. No one wants to comment? Okay. Moving right along then to committee reports, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on November 15th. The first presentation was a new course proposal, Accelerated Statistics. This is a full-year course. It's going to be offered to students who successfully complete Algebra 2. The course it would cover fundamental knowledge of statistics at an accelerated level, and I think one of the key takeaways was that it's aimed to equip our students with college and career pathways that rely on a background in statistics. Next, we were presented a presentation on the Certificate of Global Engagement. The Connecticut Certificate of Global Engagement recognizes public high school graduates who have successfully completed a global education curriculum, including engagement in co-curricular activities and experiences that foster the development of global competencies. The state of Connecticut has approved Southington's application to bring this opportunity to our high school students. So there's a list of courses that they have to take. If they complete a certain number of those courses that are available, then they get this certificate when they graduate. And then last, the middle school scheduling team presented their proposal. It aims to increase instructional minutes in English, language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. The team shared the rationale for the schedule change that emerged from student and achievement data, coupled with factors related to the viability of curriculum implementation in the core subject areas. This new proposed schedule increases academic minutes while maintaining various unified arts and world language offerings at the middle schools. And then tonight, we'll get a detailed presentation. As the team does that presentation, I just kind of want to, I'll give a few things that I think are important to take away. One, the amount of time and effort and sincerity that the team put into their full investigation, all the data mining that they did, looking across our other DIRGs, other schools within our DIRG, the feedback that they took from other staff members as well that went into their proposal. They used a lot of data tools as well. It's just very impressive work. So I think the board will appreciate what we see tonight, and that's it for the curriculum meeting.
Clerk?
Yes,
Yes, on the first
use your
thing,
microphone.
we had the accelerated statistic. The teachers, in the math department, the reason that they offered that was because colleges were telling our guidance counselors that's what they wanted the kids to have. So we are so fortunate that our teachers are so, apt, they are wonderfully
Responsive.
ready to offer things to our kids, and that was isn't that what they told us, that they showed that the colleges wanted that course? And wait until you hear the middle school presentation. Wonderful,
Can't wait.
wonderful.
I am looking forward to it. Any questions?
Yeah.
No? Thank you, Mr. Williams. Finance Committee, Mr. Carson.
All right, several items to cover this evening. We met this past Monday, and I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 motions to make. And so I will just briefly cover the topics, and then I'll move directly into motions in a rapid-fire sequence. First and foremost, do you want to go back?
No,
Okay.
why don't you do yours, and then we'll go
I'll-
back to
okay.
personnel. Sorry, I apologize for missing I had crossed it out, I don't know why. Okay,
I just want to make sure we're not in violation here.
no.
Okay.
No.
All right, so first and foremost, item 1 is the Pleasant Street Barn project, which, as you know, our Director of Ag Sci, Mr. McLaughlin, presented to us over the summer back in June, and received an ASTE grant for that project. And so we're moving forward with that project, and you'll see a couple motions for engineering services and architectural services that are required to get that building constructed on next to DePaulo Middle School. All right, second item, we discussed, we had some FY24 non-lapsing funds available, and so we will be presenting a motion for the recommended use of those non-lapsing funds. Moving on, the high school, the West Gym, we are looking to install basketball hoops with funds from the town, so town capital funds. We're looking to upgrade not the competitive portion of the gymnasium, but the West Gymnasium. We're looking to add some basketball hoops that will allow us to better utilize the space. Those basketball hoops will be able to be folded out of the way. Let's see, moving on, next item, as our superintendent mentioned earlier, the McKinney-Vento homeless grant, which is a 3-year grant. Our new registrar did a fantastic made a fantastic effort to get us the funds through a competitive grant process. I'll be making a motion in regards to that so we can accept those funds here in the district. And then last but not least, food service. We have a need for a new steamer at DePaulo Middle School. Just let me check my notes real quick. I think I covered everything. Oh, one thing that I did not mention, which correlates to the use of FY24 non-lapsing funds, is we had a discussion during the committee meeting with regard to AEDs, or what most people know as defibrillators, okay? And so we have a need in district to retire 4 of those units, and we'll be purchasing, I'll be making a motion to purchase 4 new units to replace those. But the basis of the conversation was, what do we do with those 4 units that we're retiring? And so there was a conversation about typically what happens with those units is they just go back to the manufacturer, and they are retired just like a laptop or a phone or anything else, right? They are no longer used. Those units cost approximately $2,000 a piece, and so there was a conversation about if there was a responsible and organization, community organization that could use those retired units in a responsible fashion, and they had staff that was trained or could be trained, that maybe we could donate those retired units. So if anyone on the board has any ideas or discussion relating to that, I would love to hear it personally, or has connections out in the community if there is a need for that. With that said, I will move directly into motions, and obviously there's an opportunity to discuss each and every one of the motions after I present them. So with that said, going back to item 1, move to approve civil engineering services for the Pleasant Street Barn project to Cole Civil and Survey for in the amount of $14,400 to be funded with the ASTE grant.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion 2, move to approve architectural services for the Pleasant Street Barn project to Kenneth Borenson in the amount of $19,300 to be funded with the ASTE grant.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now moving on to non-lapsing funds. Move to approve the use of FY24 non-lapsing funds for the high school athletic track sidewalk change order in the amount of $19,064. The required PCB monitoring in the amount of $16,100. And the automated external defibrillator replacements in the amount of $7,683 as presented by the administration.
Second?
Any discussion? I just have a comment to make
Certainly.
about the PCB testing. When we renovated the 2 middle schools, we spent, I believe, $9 million to remove the PCBs, and we got to a 0, and we've been testing every year since then. Just have to say it. Just have to say it.
So I know Mr. Romano has and continues to work towards that requirement and the need to do it or not. It's a federal requirement, and he's been working, I believe, with the EPA. And there is a request to waive that requirement based on the history of the testing and the results, coupled with extensive abatement that went on. So they're just not quick to get you answers. And so
Yeah.
as of right now, the requirement is still the requirement. But our hope is that at some point, these types of unfunded mandates that don't make all that much sense on the surface are revisited and, you know, are a relief not only to our school system, but to other
Everyone.
systems that have to bear that expense
Yeah.
as well.
Just wanted to get that out there. Yes, Mr. Darrenowski.
And to, just to add to that, that was a very shocking episode in our, in a career, my career here as a board member. I was totally shocked, the amount of money and the disruption at the high school that we went through.
Yep.
And I know we did a detailed investigation throughout the district to make sure that there wasn't any additional issues. We've remedied that over the, I think, 2 or 3 years after that. And since then, I don't think we've found any indication of any PCBs anywhere in the district.
Yeah, this testing requirement, I think, is relative to the middle school PCBs that were removed during the renovation. But to your point,
But that's
there-
how many years ago?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I was principal back then. I was 10 years at least. But then, and there's been no trace or negligible traces ever since. And having lived through it, Mr. Pepe was there, you know, Ms. Palmieri, Mrs. Couch, they cut a substantial amount of block around every door frame and every window in the building to ensure that they were removing not only where they knew it was, but where it could have bled to.
Right.
And excavated the entire gym to a hole, which I still have pictures of, to remove the vapor barrier that contained PCBs. So the documentation is there that the abatement and remediation was done. And so I agree with you.
But, $16,000 a year over the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Could have gone towards some.
Could have went to.
something constructive.
Something constructive in a classroom.
Oh, I agree. I agree. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Your next motion, sir.
All right, next motion, and actually, before I make it relating to the basketball hoops in the high school west gym, I failed to notate that part of the conversation and the need for the new basketball hoops directly relates to the United Sports basketball Special Olympics program that basically will allow that program to host regional and state events at the high school. So I think that's important to notate, in bringing this project forward. With that said, I move to approve the installation of 4 additional basketball hoops in the high school west gym, awarded to Hussey Advantage using the Sourcewell contract in the amount of $43,150, the funding of which is provided by the town capital funds.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just on so that's the West Gym in the high school?
Yes.
Right, so is that the freshman gym or otherwise? Because they have the 2 hoops on the either side, and then, so where are the extra 4 hoops going?
So currently, the way it was explained to us is all the basketball apparatuses are currently in an east-west direction. And so what this will allow us to do is when the gym is split, we have the 4 additional hoops in a north-south direction.
Okay.
So simultaneous activity can go on where it can't currently.
Yep, understood.
Am I explaining that right, Steve? Okay.
Well done. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next, I move to approve the FY25 McKinney-Vento Homeless Competitive Grant Application in the amount of $9,950 for a 3-year period.
Second?
Any discussion?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It says that if we had matching funds, we could get more.
Correct.
Can we get some explanation of that? How much would that be?
Yeah, at the time of the grant application, we didn't have those funds budgeted for that purpose, so we didn't submit in that
Right.
fashion. So we went for what we would be eligible for.
Sure.
And so, I mean, this is the type of funds that goes towards, we sometimes, hotel stays, transportation, food cards, school necessities that the students would require. Really anything we can do to help and provide assistance to families that we know fall within the McKinney-Vento Act.
So if we were to consider putting something in the budget, we could get more money?
If the grant were available again, and because it's competitive, we'd have to still be awarded it. This was actually a competitive grant, and so typically we don't get those in Southington just because of our demographics and some of the eligibility criteria that the grant even requires before you apply. So this one, I think it was great that we were able to get that.
Yep. Thank you.
Right, and you know, just to give the board a little more background, and, you know, the district has currently identified approximately 20 students, you know, that are identified as homeless, and the district will be able to utilize this competitive grant funding to help them, you know, their success in our district, in their education and their classroom experience, you know, because without this funding and without the transportation, we can't get them within our district in our classrooms where we all know the best education, teaching and learning happens, so.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right, last motion. Move to approve the purchase of a replacement kitchen steamer at the Apollo Middle School in the amount of $30,407 to Globe Equipment. The funding is from the food service operating account.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
Any questions of Mr. Carson? Thank you so much, Mr. Carson. Policy and personnel is who?
Move to approve the personnel report as submitted.
No, this is the committee meeting, I'm sorry. Policy and Personnel Committee meeting, and
The chairs,
is not here. So, would you like to, Mr. Pepe?
The meeting occurred on Tuesday, November 26th. It was called to order at 5:30. Policies 3280, 4118.51, 5121.3, 6141.11, and Regulation 1326 were discussed because of the presence of AI within our classrooms. Policy 3280 underwent basic editing. However, the associated regulation was updated to offer a level of screening for gifts to ensure technological compatibility. 4118.51 and 5121.3 were introduced since we currently do not have either. The committee charged myself and Mrs. Savicol to wordsmith the second paragraph of the policy 5121.3 and will accept further comments during the first and second readings. So what you have before you tonight has that wordsmithing. Mrs. Passamano then explained she's finalizing an SPS employee handbook. Incorporated into this handbook are BOE policies. Throughout the process of developing the handbook, she noticed that many policies and regulations within the 4000 series are outdated. So she proposed the following. Board of Ed 4000 series currently has 42 policies. Her recommendation is to reduce to 24. By including the required and recommended from Shipman, and all other remaining policies will be incorporated into the employee handbook. Further, current Board of Ed policies have a section for certified and a separate section for non-certified. Her recommendation is to combine to be inclusive of all staff. And third, the employee handbook will include links to BOE policies and district forms as a reference for additional information. These three proposals were reviewed with a representative from Shipman and Goodwin, who stated that having policy shifted into the handbook is best practice. It allows the district to update procedures without having to change policy when appropriate. I proposed replacing in its entirety policy 5145.3, sexual harassment of students, with the proposed policy 5145.3 and associated regulations titled Sex Discrimination and Sexual Harassment of Students. The change will bring Southington Public Schools into compliance with the new federal regulations, which have been followed since August 1st, 2024, as they were mandated. Lastly, Policy 6144, controversial issues, along with a comparative sample, were reviewed. After thorough discussion, it was established that a blending of the two would be entertained. I'll bring forward a draft to the next meeting. Our meeting adjourned at 6:18.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Pepe? No? Thank you, sir. Okay. We've gotten through all those. And now, Mr. Darrenowski, the personnel report.
I have a motion already out.
That indeed you do. Do we have a second?
Second, you're doing the personnel report?
Yes, now we're doing the second, yes. So we second. So Mr. Darrenowski and Mrs. Carmody. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Town government communications?
Nothing new to report.
Nope, okay. The capital improvement plan, our second reading.
Move to approve the capital improvement plan 2025 to 26 to 2029, 2030, as presented by the administration.
Second.
You second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
New business. Approval of out-of-state overnight field trips. Let's see, item 10.
Move that, I'll make the motion to move that the Board of Ed approve the field trip request as presented by the administration.
Second?
Any discussion? I just have a question for Mr. Medancy. Is it Texas? I thought it was, or I should ask Mrs. Mallett. Was it Texas last year? Yeah, it's
Yes, Houston.
always, okay. For some reason, I was thinking it was
They're going to the
Chicago.
same
What?
place.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. They're amazing. Okay. But for some reason, I was thinking it was Chicago. I don't know why.
It used to be in Detroit.
I was close. I was very close. It was, don't laugh, I'm not good at geography. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Proposed 2025-2026 school calendar, first read.
So as is our annual tradition this time of year, this is the first read, and so since it's been presented to the board first, if you have any feedback, you're welcome to send that to me. But beyond that, what I always do prior to you taking action after the second read is I send this out to all of our families in our community and all our staff. I take all the feedback that's provided and synthesize it, put it on one document so that you have that before you take any action on it at the second read.
Okay. Yes.
I know this is an old issue and a dead issue probably, but I would like to see us consider changing Columbus Day. A lot of districts around the country have done that. Maybe look into what other districts have done instead. I know we had a heated public debate about that many years ago, but it's still there.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next item is the superintendent's annual report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I share in the summary on the cover, I mean, it's a lengthy document, so it would take some time to get through. This report will now go on to the town. It's part of the overall, it's submitted to the town and filed as part of the overall Town of Southington report, in which they're compiling one as well. I just couldn't be more grateful to work with the team of teachers and administrators that we have when you look at everything that is in that report. And I shouldn't even reduce it to teachers and administrators, because when you look at that report, it's beyond that. It's all staff in Southington contributing in so many ways, and it really highlights the efforts and the great work that our staff does here in Southington. So when I go through that, as I do, page by page, and really take time with it, it makes you step back and realize, like, wow, we may take what we get done in a day for granted, but when you look at what we do in a year, it's pretty impressive. So just this report is more of a shout out to the great work of the staff here in Southington.
Does anyone have any? Mr. Jaranowski?
Very, very well done, okay, to leave it at that at this point. The detail, I have to say, is probably more than I had expected. And if anybody has any questions as to what we do here as a district, this answers everything. So I think, again, well done for the staff and, you know, and you in particular for, you know, job well done.
Thank you.
Can we share this with the town council and the
Yes.
Board of Finance?
Yep.
Because I'll be honest, I didn't get through it all. I learned a new word, Dibbles. Dibbles? Dibbles, I was very close. Language wasn't my specialty either geography. I'm good in math.
The
But-
good news for you is it's not really a vocabulary word that you would find in the dictionary. It's the name of an assessment by brand.
Yeah, but you know me, I love our little acronyms here. But in any event,
Teachers have turned it into a verb. That I've dibbled that student. I've heard that said,
dibble.
which means I've administered that assessment to
Okay,
that
so we
student.
dibble.
It's teacher speak.
okay, good. I like that. I just feel a document like this, like you said, is to share what goes on and what is done. And I realize it's a big document, but I think it's worthwhile that they're aware that it's there, that they see what our tax dollars do and how far they go and what we've accomplished. I think it's, you know, I don't know if they're going to read it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But as long as they have access to
I
it.
will definitely share it.
Thank you. Okay.
If I could add just
Do.
one thing that you kind of highlighted, but I think it needs to be addressed. I think we're one of the few districts in the state that has a food service element that is self-sufficient. Okay, that doesn't come into play with our budget, and yet kids are well-fed. We struggle, I'm not say we don't, but I have to say that that's one of the things that kind of highlighted my review of this.
It's a good point.
But that's something I think we should tout a little bit better and let people know exactly how we spend our money.
Hence the new steamer tonight.
Exactly.
Exactly. But people should know, or people should, if they have a student at one of the schools, look at the report that was written by that principal. And while they're going by the same guidelines, the flavor is always so different at each school. It's a wonderful report, and I just wish there was a better way for us to share it with the community, so. Okay, we don't have to vote on that. Next item on the agenda are the first reads for the SHS Accelerated Statistics course. For policy 3280, gifts, grants, and bequests, first read. Policy 4118.51, use of AI in classrooms. Policy 5121.3, academic dishonesty. Policy 5145.3, prohibition of sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment. Policy 6141.11, use of AI in classroom for students. And now we have what we've been waiting for, the middle school scheduling proposal presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm pleased to introduce to you the folks this evening that have really done a lot of the heavy lifting behind this work. And when it was presented to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, I think it was touched upon earlier this evening, it's obviously very well thought out and organized in order to help people understand the rationale behind some of this. Just like the block schedule at the high school, there's no motion made tonight, there's no vote made on this, but we really wanted the board to have this information. At the end of the presentation, in lieu of like questions and stuff like that, for your sake, if there's things you want to follow up on, because there's a lot of us here, depending on who it is that we we will direct the question to and try and get back to the board with whatever we can for information that you might want. But with that said, I will turn it over to our Director of Teaching and Learning, Mrs. Zappone, and allow her to introduce the team and allow them to do the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have a wonderful team with us, which is a representation of a larger committee. So I just want to introduce who we have here. We have Brett Wokowski, who is a science educator at Kennedy Middle School. Behind him, we have Steve Merzieski from DePaulo, a math educator. Then we have Mrs. Vitkavage, principal of Kennedy, Rebecca Savical, our digital learning coordinator, and Mr. Palmieri, our principal at DePaulo. So all of us will have a piece of this presentation tonight. So middle school scheduling, you may have the question in your mind of, so why are we looking at this? Why are we here? Why are we talking about a change for our middle school level? So we'd like to start with the why, what brought us to this day today. So on the screen is some data, and I know you have a copy up close, but if you look historically of our student performance, this is a summative assessment snapshot over the course of several years. We've been stagnant would be the word. There's been little increases, a percent here or there, a decrease here or there, but we are not moving past a threshold of high 60s, even into the 70% proficiencies. And as we've talked about, that is one assessment. However, at the bottom of the slide, you'll notice beyond Smarter Balance, this data correlates to the day-to-day district benchmark assessments we give, as well as the classroom type of performance and summative assessment. So we're looking holistically at how our students are doing academically with achievement and growth. And we're asking our question, how do we do better, right? We work really hard. Everybody puts everything into it. However, it's a continuous improvement system. So knowing this information, and this is specifically ELA and math, we also looked at the area of science. So I'm going to have Brett share a little bit about that.
So as a science teacher, there's a lot to be proud of here. We can see a really clear positive trajectory in the area of science. Kids take the NGSS in grades 5, 8, and 11, and these are the grade 8 results for the past few years. And I think what's really powerful to me is that we've surpassed our pre-COVID student achievement in science. We continue to grow year after year after year, and I think we can attribute a lot of that to the hard work of our science teachers. They've worked incredibly hard these past few years to implement a full Open SciEd curriculum, which are units that are fully aligned to the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, and the NGSS test. We've also revised our units in grades K through 5, so when kids get to us in middle school, they already come in with knowledge and skills they didn't previously have, and that makes our job at the middle school so much easier, and we can build on that knowledge to help them achieve even more. However, at the 6 through 8 grade level, we can't cover all of our units right now. There's currently 2 units at grades 6, 7, and 8 that we're not currently able to cover despite the best intentions of our teachers. These units take time. Kids are engaging in knowledge and skills that just aren't the same as science classrooms used to be, and so despite our best intentions, we can't cover everything. And what that means is that when kids get to that test in grade 8, they don't have all the knowledge and skills we would like them to have to do as well as they could. So while these scores are impressive, we also see how much better they could be, and where I would love for us to go next is a full Open SciEd implementation, with 6 units being taught at grades 6, 7, and 8. However, right now, we don't have the time to do that.
So what we currently know is in SPS, we offer 60 plus minutes of math instruction a day at the elementary level, kindergarten through 5, 90 to 120 minutes of literacy instruction a day. Currently at the middle schools, depending on which school you're at, there's 43 to 44 minutes of each academic class a day. And at the high school, as you know, they have the blocks that are 88 minutes long every other day for all classes. And we compared schedules from over 35 districts, some in our DIRG, some not in our DIRG, and found that the average length of instructional minutes per academic block exceeded 54 minutes. So things that we've done to boost learning and increase scores over the past few years are providing ongoing professional learning for staff on instructional practices. We've adopted and implemented research-based curriculum. As administrators, we walk into classrooms together and calibrate our findings after we're observing lessons. We're increasing our classroom visits. We're providing actionable feedback. We implemented and follow a 3-year improvement plan for scientifically research-based interventions, so our tiered instruction, and we've implemented a 30-minute intervention block in each building. It's known as CORE at DePaulo and K-Block at Kennedy.
So with all of that being said, Mrs. Vikavich just brought us through a list of all of the work we've been doing year after year after year. And I'm gonna just flash this slide for one more moment. So I'm gonna ask you to reflect internally what jumps out at you there when you look at the instructional minutes per level, right? So that brings us back to what haven't we done? What have we not tried at the middle school level to see if it makes an impact? And that factor that we haven't tried is changing a traditional 8-period day into a different system of longer instructional blocks for our academic areas. Why is that so critical? When we think about curriculum, we can bring forward to you amazing curriculum that is well done, research-based, standards aligned. But if it is not viable and it is not guaranteed, we're not sure we have the time to teach it, we can't get to it. So that is a huge known factor. You heard from Brett that in science, we can't get to all of the units, not because we're not working hard. There aren't enough minutes in the instructional block across the span of a year. And the same is true for math. Our mathematics lessons are paced for 60 minutes, yet we teach in a 43, 44. Same goes forward for English language arts. So that factor is where we kind of put our eggs in the basket on our theory for the change of middle school. So that was our study of what is our problem of practice and what are we going to do about it, which led us to our theory of action. So this theory of action is like the center heart of the work, and that's what we brought to the committee to then launch into solving our proposed problem. So the theory is if we increase instructional time through longer academic blocks, then we can implement curriculum with integrity and provide deeper learning experiences so that student learning outcomes improve. So that right there was the central force of the rest of the work that you're going to hear about tonight.
So with that, as we went through the process, each step of the way we went back and referred back to that theory of action. So we wanted to share with you some of our priorities and what we felt was most essential for all our middle school staff. And then we, in addition to the priorities, looked at some things that if we could, we'd like to try to maintain as well. So you can see here, as you've heard multiple times tonight, really we wanted to focus on the academic areas of language arts, math, science, and social studies. So we tried to find a time to increase the instruction in those areas. And we wanted to also even further elaborate with literacy and math. Again, going back to our theory of action, we're looking to find ways to increase that instructional time. And where are we going to find the time to increase those 4 core academic subjects? Then the secondary considerations, we value all our unified arts classes that their students offer. We feel they get a true variety, and it positions them well as they get ready to transition to the high school. So we wanted to maintain those unified arts offerings. I know the board has heard many times about the SHS pathways. So we wanted to try to maintain as much as we could a pathway from the middle school up as the students transition through 12th grade. And Ms. Vikavich spoke a little bit earlier about our flex block, known as K-Block and Core. That's roughly a half an hour of instructional time built into the schedule at both middle schools each day. That allows teachers to work with students more individually, conference with them, provide extra enforcement, reteach lessons, whatever they need. It's just extra instructional time during the day. Primary focus is again, within literacy and math. So again, other considerations as we move forward with that theory of action. Middle school, what's critical is, especially coming from our 5 different feeder elementary schools, we know that our team model creates a smaller home type feel for our students, especially coming from some of the smaller elementary schools. So we wanted to maintain our team model as we move forward with the change in our schedule. We knew that was critical. Our world language program, we've talked a lot about that over the years, and we wanted to make sure we maintained a solid world language program, especially, again, feeding into the high school if students chose to continue with either French or Spanish at the high school level. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the variety of unified arts, which are exploratory, we wanted to still keep the same variety of course offerings for our students. We just needed to look a little bit at those in order to find other time, but we wanted to maintain them as is.
So as I mentioned earlier, we looked at over 35 schedules within Connecticut. We used this scheduling analysis tool that you see here that really looked at all of the priorities and considerations that Chris just spoke about. So how long was the period? Is it a block schedule currently? What courses do they offer? Is there a literacy block? Is there a numeracy block? We wanted to put all of our priorities and even the considerations into our moving forward with the next steps. So weeding them out, we came up with 13 schedules that we then met as middle school administrative team and created this we were paired up amongst each other, and we had thoughtful discussions as we completed the analysis tools to move forward with suggestions that we're bringing to you tonight. So after that, we nailed it down to 4 schedules, and we selected 2. So we looked at schedules with rotating blocks, drop blocks. We wanted to make sure there was increased instructional time. We wanted to make sure there was a dedicated numeracy and literacy block. We wanted to make sure, as Chris had mentioned, the unified arts offerings, we had time for all of those things. So these are the ones that we brought forward to the teacher committee for review, the 2. So we went from 35 to 13 to 4 to 2.
Upon the completion of the work by the administrative team, volunteers from both schools of teachers were asked to go and take a look at all of these schedules. As you can see, there is a good representation from both schools, not only in the core classes, but as well as the encore classes. When we entered that initial meeting, the administrative team gave us the task of taking a look at these schedules, giving our feedback, trying to see how viable are these schedules in their current form. Initially, when we were looking through these, the encore teachers, specifically art and tech ed, noticed that with a 3-day rotation, there will not be enough room to keep student work, whether it is art projects or tech ed projects. In response to this, the administrative team went and designed a 2-day rotation schedule so that way they could go and address these spatial constraints. Once that was completed, the committee then went and looked at the AM and staggered flex. Upon much deliberation, a vote was then had, and it was decided that in order to try and meet the most requirements of our schedule, a midday staggered flex would be best.
So now we live this schedule daily, but we want to give the board an overview of what we currently do and then show you how we found the time to do what we've been talking to you about this evening. So right now, both middle schools, we have an 8-period day. There are core teachers that teach 5 periods per day. So those are science, math, language arts, social studies, and world language currently. Those are our core teachers. Our encore teachers are our unified arts. So encore unified arts, which is tech ed, art, family consumer science, PE, health, music. Those are all our encore teachers. They teach 6 periods per day, 2 per grade level each day. All periods, as Ms. Vitkavich mentioned earlier, are either 43 to 44 minutes per day. Students do have flex time in each building for 30 minutes each day. World language currently is only offered to 7th and 8th grade students. It is not offered to 6th grade students. 6th grade students currently have a double block of language arts that takes the place of the world language that they get exposed to in 7th and 8th grade. So currently, language arts is the only period that is a little bit longer, 2 periods, so about an hour and a half each day. and then every other academic is 44 minutes roughly. And then in 7th and 8th grade, as I mentioned, Spanish or French by student selection gets added to their schedule. And currently, students choose between music and computers. So that's band, chorus, orchestra, or a computers elective. So that's what we currently have. So now we can take a look at the proposed schedule for next year. So you can see, for example, let's look at 6th grade. That first core academic could potentially be math. Again, it would be in different order, but the students would have 4 core academic subjects. The second period may be a language arts period. Notice now, instead of the 44 minutes, those classes are increased to 57 minutes. So we've got math and language arts. The third core academic could be a science class. Again, 57 minutes, not the 43 to 44 minutes that we currently have. And then your social studies would be your 4th core academic subject, 57 minutes each. Now with that, we moved world language, which is French or Spanish, into the encore block. So currently students have world language 44 minutes every day. In 7th and 8th grade, we would now move to all 3 years where they would have the world language in that 44-minute block. So students would have 4 core academic periods throughout their day. They would still have a 30-minute lunch. They would still have a 30-minute flex like they currently do. And then they would still have 2 encore periods a day. So by collapsing 5 academic periods into 4 academic periods, that's what allowed us to capture a little bit more of that time that you see here, to the increase from 43 to 44 minutes up to 57 minutes for academic subjects.
And then just to solidify, what does that look like over the course of a day, a week, and a school year? Like, how much time are we actually generating from this proposal? You can look across. So for all of the classes that would be bumped to 57 minutes, you're going from 43 to 57 minutes daily, 14 minutes per day. Over the course of the year, that is an increase of 10,080 minutes of instructional time. And that's, it sounds like a lot, but it's also just a number. So to kind of quantify it for you, in the box below, that would be equal to 58 periods or current blocks of instruction in addition to what they're getting. So when you think about units, 58 days is close to an entire trimester of our current time of teaching. So this, and the analysis tool Mrs. Vikavage showed you earlier, the reason we had so many schedules and whittled it down is when you do the math across all of these various schedules, some of them yield more minutes and some of them do not. So we wanted to make sure if we were bringing forward a change that has impact, we want to make sure it gives us the best bang for our buck, so to speak.
So where do those minutes come from? It obviously comes from that encore block. And so one of our priorities was to continue a variety of elective offerings for all of our students so that they can experience those potential pathways before they get to the high school. So you can see that we took all of the SHS pathways and we matched them to the various offerings at the middle school so that our students can still have that experiential learning opportunity. So all of the pathways are represented there. And then we did move, as Mr. Palmieri said, the world language offering began in 7th grade. Because we moved it into the encore block, we are beginning to offer that in 6th grade. So there's a small reduction in minutes, but the students have exposure to that language over 3 years rather than 2 years. So the previous schedule we showed you had 2 encore blocks, so we just want to expand that a little bit. So for a student in that encore block, this would be an A-B rotation for them. They would have in one of those blocks a world language elective, so they can still choose between Spanish and French. And then they would have a wellness rotation. This didn't change from our current structure. They would have 60 days of physical education and 30 days of health, and that they rotate through those. And then they'll have a fine arts elective. So instead of that choice between music and computers, which seems like two very different pathways that we're forcing students to choose from very, very early in their career, now it'll be a fine arts elective choice. So they can choose between a performing arts with band, orchestra, and choir, or a visual arts pathway where they're looking at a multimedia art. And then the other block is a career and technical education rotation. So this will have family consumer science, computers, and technology and engineering.
So that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation, and it's a sensitive slide because it's talking about staff and what this means. The changes that we showed you within this proposed schedule, as mentioned, time is coming from somewhere. So in order to increase academic minutes, the encore block has shifted. We are still offering everything, but the amount of days students may have in a particular rotation is less than it has been in the past to be able to make this happen. So with that being said, I'm going to start with in the gray box right now. For this proposed schedule to take place, there would be some reductions which are on the left, and you're going to see they're coming from those encore areas because we would not need as many staff in those positions due to less days that students track in. Again, I want to reiterate, we're not cutting any programming. We think it's very important for our students to get that sampling and variety, but the number of staff in those areas, we wouldn't need the same number. So those would be reduced in that bucket. But then to make this work on the other end of that, we need additional academic teachers in the core academic areas. So that would be an increase of 12. And if you do the math there, to make this schedule come to fruition, we would need an increase for next year of 3.4 FTEs. And you might be saying, ooh, that, increased staff. But then on the left is bringing you back to, in the current budget package that you will see coming down the road, the total increase of staff for middle school is actually right now 7, because that is the reinstatement of the small teams that were eliminated in the past. So moving forward, because of enrollment and numbers, we are requesting an increase either way. Our proposal is a less staff increase, and it gets us to an ideal instructional model that we feel strongly about is needed anyways. And the unintended benefit would be less need for staff in terms of the ask that we would need to pull off next year. But this is really what we're looking at in terms of moving forward with that model and making these proactive changes for our middle school level.
Thank you very much, and I just want to thank all of the staff for the time and effort, and the layers of work that have occurred over the past couple of years to get to this point. You can tell there was obviously a lot of thought and collaboration, so we definitely appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing our students in this model.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much
Thank you.
for all that work. Wow. And if we have any questions, we can bring it back
You can,
to.
yep, any questions you can funnel to either Jasper
Okay.
or myself, and I'll funnel them
Okay.
to the folks on the committee.
Super. Can we get a light back on so I can read? Thank you. Okay, we have item 10K.
Yep.
Whoops. Oops. Mr. Darrenowski?
Yes, move to approve the recommendation from the administration for a stipulated agreement, number 2024-2025-3.
Do I have a second? Okay, second. All those in favor? Aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay. One abstention, Mr. Williams. Okay. Public communication. Anyone from the public wish to comment to the board? Seeing no one?
Before we make a motion to adjourn, I just want to recognize and thank Mrs. Colgrove for coming out of the bullpen tonight. I yanked her out of retirement to cover the agenda and the minutes tonight, so much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Colgrove. Okay, favorite motion?
Yes, move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It's been a tickle all day.
Listen, I hope it's COVID so I get out of here. 2 more weeks, you know what I mean? I tell my whole staff, I'm like, Hope, I'm like, come on in.
I'm telling you.
Really?
When people are like,
It's in the minutes, so.
Correct.
How are your symptoms? Terrible.
I'll make a comment for sure. Yeah, you too.
Oh, yeah. Saturday morning? Yeah, can we do something so we could get some mimosas too, or?
Jasper, don't forget your.
Saturday morning, no, I'm just.
Now he's back in.
No. I think I'm good with that, yeah. You wanna do that good?